What's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to be talking about having your Pluto in your partner's 7th house in SYNASTRY. Having your Pluto inside of a partner's 7th house in SYNASTRY, this can make for a kind of relationship that can feel very deep. It is very intense, but at the same time it also can be quite complex, and the experience can be quite complicated. Sometimes the hidden, unconscious and psychological dynamics in a relationship between two people can be a bit harder to pick up on from face value and really in the beginning in a relationship. That's where Pluto comes in, and Pluto can really show the depth behind that initial spark and what's initially kind of attracting two people towards each other and what's drawing them in. And also Pluto does also show in SYNASTRY what the two partners in the relationship are concerned with being able to strive towards and to fight for with this relationship. So where Pluto is going to be kind of important. And even though it's a very generational planet, and a lot of people do sometimes think that it doesn't actually have an effect, it can also be used and quite useful in this way. The 7th house, this is a house of committed partnerships. It can also show hidden enemies. It can show marriages as well, and businesses and legal matters can also be seen through the 7th house. So the house person can be very drawn to the Pluto person because of how mysterious the Pluto person comes off. This can be something that kind of draws them in. They can be very fascinated with that in the Pluto person. But at the same time, they can also feel like the Pluto person is kind of secretive. And so this can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing too at times. In this relationship, the house person is also very drawn to and admires that very daring and very fearless side in the Pluto person that the Pluto person kind of comes across as to the house person. And they're also drawn to their ability to kind of take control in this relationship at first. Although both of the partners in this relationship are likely to have a lot of loyalty towards each other, and also there's this strong sense of being able to have insight and understanding into a person's inner desires and their weaknesses, especially when it comes to the Pluto person towards the house person. This is because the Pluto energy is more so wanting to be able to experience deeper meaning behind partnership, and there's this sense of this relationship is one that really does run quite deep. It's one that's going to kind of get deeper than the surface, and in this relationship there's an ability for the partners to experience kind of high highs and low lows, so volatility and a need for compromise to make things work. So the house person really wants to be able to build a strong and lasting connection with the Pluto person. And the Pluto person really has the power to kind of transform the way in which the house person views relationships, whether that's for the better or for the worse. After this relationship has the power to really kind of make an impact on the house person's way of viewing partnerships and relationships. In one way, the Pluto person is very loyal and they're very intensely devoted to the house person, which makes the house person feel very strongly connected to the Pluto person, and this further draws them into the Pluto person. And also at the same time, with that intensity from the Pluto person, that intensity can also come off as them being kind of controlling, especially when it comes to controlling the dynamics of the relationship, which can also go on to kind of feel like they are being controlling of the house person. And the Pluto person can come off as being obsessive and being possessive in this relationship. And depending on where their Pluto in their own chart is, they can actually be very obsessive, or they can be obsessed with the house person's relationship, which can start to overwhelm the house person. but it really ultimately comes down to the Pluto person's relationship to power and control. For the house person especially, this relationship can kind of be pretty complicated because they're basically very attracted to and drawn to the Pluto person, and at the same time they can be intimidated, or there can be this sense of fear towards getting closer to the Pluto person. And with the 7th house, balance is very important in the relationship, and not letting ego kind of get involved, which is pretty much really at the center of trying to control everything to begin with. If they let this kind of get out of hand, that's where they can have those tensions and power struggles. And the house person's relationship to power and control is also kind of brought into focus and can be transformed through this relationship. The house person can kind of be in a position where they are giving their power away in order to make things work. But at the same time, it can also be like the Pluto person has an insight into the house person's weaknesses, because the Pluto person is very attuned to the house person, and it's like they are able to really see beyond the surface when it comes to the house person. And so with that, the Pluto person is able to kind of take advantage of the house person in the sense that they know what buttons to push and they know where their weaknesses lie. And the controlling or dominating side of the Pluto person can really manifest in this relationship, especially if, say, the Pluto person has like their Pluto in their 7th house in their own birth chart, which can show them having a fear of losing power and losing control, specifically when it comes to relationships. So they can kind of manifest that trait because of this. And although the Pluto person's ability to kind of be very emotionally attuned to their partner, the 7th house partner can really like this about the Pluto person. It can make them feel very seen and cared for and kind of acknowledged in a way that feels good. The Pluto person, though, can also have this sense of distrust towards the house person, but it's not because of what the house person has done. It can be more so to do with their own insecurities, especially around things like power and control, and losing any of those things and having to surrender them for the sake of relationships. Pluto usually operates in extremities, whereas the 7th house is more so kind of favoring being able to come into balance and making partnerships work through that way. So if ever, say, they got into their disagreements or a fight or even divorce, or even just kind of coming into power struggles, which is also something that can happen, but when it does happen with this placement, it can get pretty ugly, and things can really get further complicated by that ability for being able to kind of know each other's weaknesses in this relationship. So communication and boundaries are important. But in the positive, when things are good, things can be really great in this relationship between the house person and the Pluto person. Both the Pluto person and the 7th house person are both kind of striving towards building a long-lasting and very strong kind of a relationship. They are not in relationship for the sake of just being in relationship, and have in common this desire to experience something that is much deeper and has a deep sense of meaning behind it too. In the positive, the Pluto person really brings the sense of passion, intensity, and also this deep devotion to this relationship and to the house person, which the house person can really appreciate about the Pluto person. The Pluto person may be highly committed to being able to create a very meaningful and that very deep connection with the house person, and the house person can feel this, and the house person actually feels the same way about the Pluto person. Both of the Pluto person and the house person are very willing to go to great lengths to be able to build a very strong and lasting relationship and partnership and connection in this synastry placement. Well, that does it for this video on having your Pluto in your partner's 7th house. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe to this channel for more videos. Well, that is where I love and leave you. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in future videos. Bye guys.